All right, it's Parks Victoria's turn for a bit of grassy love. We have Lauren Talbot. Lauren has a background in environmental science and over a decade working in park management, starting in bush regen and seasons as a project firefighter, before stepping into the role of park ranger. We love our park rangers. Recently, she has been focusing on habitat restoration across the Prom and the offshore islands. Thank you. Welcome, Lauren.
Hello, I'm Lauren. So today I'm going to be talking about how we've used fire to reverse coast tea-tree invasion of rare coastal grasslands at Wilsons Prom, Yanakie. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to any First Nations people here today. To understand this project as a whole, we have to quickly look at history of the landscape. Bunurong, Boonwurrung and Gunai Kurnai people are the traditional owners of Yanakie, Wilsons Prom. Large high-intensity fires were rare, roughly every 300 years. Grasslands and heathlands were healthy and benefited from cultural practices such as cool burning. There was also abundant sources of food, edible plants and game species, as well as a vast array of shellfish. In terms of the early 1800s, the first European contact was George Bass in 1798, and it became like a lawless hub for sealing, whaling, mining, logging, and cattle were introduced to the promontory. Traditional owners were removed or displaced off the landscape, and this reduced significantly ecologically important practices such as cultural burning and hunting gradually ceased. Apex predators were hunted off the landscape. Here is the last dingo hunted off the promontory. Tourism increased substantially in the 1900s. Frequent high-severity fires scorched the entirety of the landscape. Like the 1951 fire was a significant fire. Cattle grazing continued on the Yanakie Isthmus. Kangaroos, deer and rabbits were introduced. The Prom was made a national park in 1898, and subsequently more land was added to the national park over time. However, the Yanakie Isthmus, where we're talking today, wasn't declared a national park until 1969, and cattle grazing continued on the isthmus up until 1992, so not that long ago. Great year, by the way. So the Yanakie Isthmus is that grey bit on the map where we're talking. You can see here, that is where we're talking. So an isthmus is kind of defined by water on both sides and a long strip of land. Unlike a lot of the talks we've had today, we only have 2 landholders that we ever deal with, and one of the properties we acquired through a long-term lease. So we have 1 landholder that we ever deal with. The isthmus is made up of Calcareous Swale Grassland and coastal alkaline scrub. Over time, it has faced increased threat from not enough good fire, so the right fire at the right time in the right ecosystem required to promote ecosystem health, then too much bad fire, so high intensity, large, uncontrolled, and occurs in the wrong ecosystem at the wrong time of year, and then too many grazers. So the result, which we have been working on for many decades, is coast tea-tree takes over. So in terms of the wrong fire at the wrong time of the year, coast tea-tree burnt in the summer when major bushfires occur, it becomes prolific and it just keeps reseeding. And that is what has happened, and it's become a monoculture of tea-tree. It naturally occurs in the first and second sand dune and stabilises dunes and prevents erosion. However, it has spread through our prevailing westerly winds in all of those red areas, and it keeps pushing across, so we have to try and keep it at bay. If you've been at the Prom in summer, in spring, you'll understand what I mean by prevailing westerly winds. And it naturally occurs all along those spots along the eastern coast there. In terms of the coast tea-tree life cycle, it takes about 5 years to produce seed. It's a prolific cedar in summer and early autumn. The seed is short-lived and either rots or is eaten by ants after 3 months. And quite a bit of that, in terms of its life cycle, we've harnessed in our management strategies. Now, it lives for around 80 to 100 years before it naturally starts to senesce. So a very long-living plant. Varney's Grassland is where we've been focusing all of our restoration works in. All of that became abundant coast tea-tree, and those swales there you see is where we've been doing restoration. So we're up to about 250 hectares in Varney's Grassland, and we've just started on the other side about 450 hectares in what's called Southwest Block, which I'll show you a photo of later. This was the Yanakie Isthmus Grassland in the 1950s. So it's the swales, like the low depressions, were made up of abundant grasses and herbs, and the dunes, or hummocks as we like to call them, were made up of predominantly shrubs and trees, and predominantly she oaks where we are. And this is in 2024, so completely over monoculture of tea tree. So that, a lot of that was burnt in 2009 within the Black Summer fire. So how have we looked at ways to manage the problem that we have? Well, it's been predominantly community-driven adaptive management. So years of field trials, research partnerships and collaborations to understand and treat the problem. We've worked very closely with La Trobe University, with John Morgan and Mike Clark, and established a wealth of knowledge in coast tea tree biology and drivers of invasion. And that has helped us develop management strategies for different situations. We also have a very large heathland restoration program as well, but I'm just focusing on the grasslands today. And it's led to lots of science-backed positive outcomes, which continually support continuation of our program. And it's all part of fire as a restoration tool incorporated into our fire management strategy. So there's Mike there doing his bird survey, which has been going on in the prom for about 20 years. And that's Mads Dwyer, a student doing a lot of research on coast tea tree biology and soil, seed soil. But she's done a lot of work in the heathlands. And then the dots down there have been a lot of the work that John Morgan has done, and volunteers have been collating a lot of that on-ground monitoring, and they call them the dung flingers, but that has since ceased. We have also been working very closely with our traditional owner partnerships, the Bunurong Land Council, Boonwurrung Land and Sea Council, and Gunai Kurnai Land and Waters Aboriginal Corporations. We've been having a lot of meetings, on-country visits, working towards a nomination of cultural burns and delivering cultural burns on country. And recently, shout out to Toby who's here today, we've been planting murnongs in the grasslands as well, which haven't been recorded at the Promontory since 1982 due to cattle grazing pressures removing them from the landscape. We also work very closely with our volunteers, in particular Friends of the Prom, as well as uni groups, students, anyone who wants to come down and give us a hand. We're always welcome to volunteers. We've been establishing seed production plots in Southwest Block to protect them from grazing pressure. That's counting dung down there, so doing a circle line, and that has been going on for a very long time. Collecting and sorting seed, plants, everything. We'd be lost without our volunteers. So how do we restore grasslands at the promontory? There's multiple treatments that we apply. We actually deliver, to begin with, when tea tree is too big to be able to be managed, we conduct a high intensity knockdown burn in spring. So in spring we can reduce coast tea tree by a significant amount, whereas when it is burnt in summer it's actually way more detrimental. Or if it's a smaller size that can be managed, we mulch it with a mechanical mulcher, so like a rubber tracked compact track loader, and that is a really, really cost-effective, great way to achieve hectares, and it has really minimal impacts on soil. And then we follow up with slashing of emergent seedlings at about 5 years, and then we return to a grassland burning regime. And then we reseed or re-veg to facilitate grassland burning. So this is when coast tea tree is too big, we conduct a high-intensity knockdown burn. It looks quite stark, and we do get some feedback from the general public that we think that we've just burnt it to an inch in its life, because we have, but it was a monoculture of tea tree and no diversity of other species there, and this is what we get as a result: sedge-dominated or grass-dominated landscapes returning, and it increased greater structural diversity and species richness. If coast tea tree is young, we mulch then burn, and that is much more easy to deliver operationally, because we don't need the same prescriptions as we do when we burn really big tea tree. Once grasses have re-established, we can return to a grassland burning regime. And this is what it's looking like now. Grass has come back thicker and become more self-sustaining. We've begun harvesting so we can be more self-sustaining, especially with funding coming and going at times. And now we have moved to collecting wildflowers as well and reseeding wildflowers. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, come and find me. And I just want to quickly acknowledge Jim Whelan, who had just finished at 55 years of service at the prom, and he's now one of our volunteers, and Brooke Love. So thank you very much.
Long-term research, collaboration, evidence-based strategic planning, what's not to love, you know? It's like what we should really be doing. Like we've got some momentum here, and it's just great to see so much grassy action and grassy love in one place. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Fantastic, and that's it.